But right through, even now, you are known for creating political pieces or getting involved politically also with things that have nothing to do with art. So where do you get your activism from?
Art was one of the subject of my O-levels.
Yeah.
But fortunately, I failed my first try. I anyway love to work with the human figure. So I was a figurative artist. At that time, might be the figurative artists are bad artists. Good artists are only the abstract artists. Yes. I might be the bad artist. Bad artist in that sense. I'm not making things for the just pleasure.
It's almost like a code or a special language.
Yes.
And if people are not open to it or don't have their eyes open to it, they may miss the message.
Yes.
But at the same time, you can hide a message also from people in it.
I believe the human rights are very important things. Your educational rights, cultural rights. Someone has to fight for it.
Hello and welcome to the Debrief with me, Roel Raymond. I have with me today Professor Chandraguptha Thenuwara, a well-known visual artist and painter. Professor Thenuwara, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes. You're welcome. I want to start with talking about your current exhibition actually. There's an exhibition on at the moment. What's it about?
Yes, it started on July 23rd. It's a special day for me. Now nearly 24 years, more than 24 years, I'm dedicating my exhibition to what happened in our recent history. That means after July 1983 pogrom. It affected me, and then that is why I'm doing the exhibition. That's again the memory for keeping memory for that event, and same time this is exhibition dedicated to that event as well as the contemporaries. So so
that's what I found most interesting about this exhibition, that every year now for 24 years, like you said, you've been having an exhibition for July 23rd. Yeah. You just mentioned that you had a personal experience with it. Would you mind sharing?
At that time I was a freelance artist working with the newspaper and same time with other odd jobs as an artist, and after graduation of my first degree. So I don't want to have a permanent job at the time. I wanted to become an artist. And that is why I was lucky that got the freelance job. And so at that day I came from Kandy just before, one day before the July events happened in Colombo. So early morning I want to go to the work. And so I saw the burning happening in Colombo, and I thought it's just accident. But when I came closer to the so then I heard a lot of noises, people are gathering, it's everything happening in front of my eyes. So the news of 13 soldiers were killed, it was just 2 days before. And then those bodies were brought to Colombo, and when the army kids are asking not to brought those to Colombo, but something, I think it's an organized event politically at that time. So we couldn't do anything, burning, killing, looting, everything. I saw it from the Nugego to town hall, from town hall to Kolpiti to Valawat, from Kolpiti to Valawat I walk by foot. So then I saw how everybody reacted to it.
And how old were you at that time, roughly?
It's 23 years old.
Did you have an idea about the any kind of ethnic tensions even at that time, or were you?
No, it was there, and then a lot of group were there, and they were asking about their rights, cultural rights, language rights, sharing power, and those are the very political issues. You have to listen to them, and there were more than 20 odd groups. I think we cannot count them also. There are a lot of, and not E-Rose and not only LTT, other the leftist youth groups, and some are conservative, some are very right-wing, some are very, various types. But they are asking about their rights, to live in this country, sharing their culture and wealth and their language. Because after the 1956, the Sinhala-Only politics create this situation.
Yeah.
And personally, I had no issue with them, because in my early childhood, nearly 12 years, I spent in Ampara.
Right.
Tamils and Sinhalese and Muslims were living together in harmony. We can identify which house they are living in, Tamil or Muslim, according to their cultural habits. But you can call, like at that time, the word demolize not a kind of
like
bad word.
Correct.
After 1983, everything
changed.
switched off to the different kind of mode. It's a politically organized crime, I think. But we couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
I was 23 years old, but we saw everything, but there is nothing I can do.
Except you've now found a way for the last 20 odd years to
so still it's in my mind, when you are, okay, you have a personal feelings, then you have a drawing, you can do those things. It's kind of personal, not your private feelings. But when you are thinking about the exhibition, you want to make some kind of message or to the society, then those memories are coming out.
Right.
We had the very bloodiest, lot of bad history. Okay, 83 and 88, 89, and again after the
Civil War.
Same, civil. It was continued and bloodbath.
Yeah.
Even when I was in Moscow from 1985 to continuously 7 years till 1992. So every day, first news, either Sri Lanka or Lebanon, so the killings. And so you cannot detach from Sri Lanka, even away from Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
So you are, as an artist especially, you are thinking about your country, and you can't create unknown things. It's a known
you have
thing.
to immerse yourself in it.
Yes, yeah.
So let's scale back a little bit to how you got into art in the first place. Did you think that you would always be an artist, or were you forced to study something else first? Or?
Yes, very first days, I know my father gave papers, colors, because we have talents, and from any child, love to paint, and
true.
That's you have to encourage them. So I also got to encourage special attention, because we always love to paint and draw. And unfortunately, when I passed all the exams with very good grades, and the system put me into the science stream.
Right.
So that is then art was one of the subject of my O-levels.
Yeah.
But fortunately, I failed my first try in O-level. Thanks God.
I
if
love
there
the
is
way.
a God,
Yes.
I think I have to pray. Thanks that God who failed me.
Yes.
That is the time. Then I have to decide what I have to do.
Yeah.
So from that point, I started to give more self-study mode rather than someone teaching you to study. So still I keep that mode.
Yeah. Professor, were you ever worried? There's that concept of starving artists, right? Like everybody tells us if you get into arts or if you get into freelance stuff that you'll never be able to make ends meet. Is that something, especially as a professor, can you tell your students, no, if you're smart about it, there's no such thing, you can make it work. Is that true or is it not true?
Yeah, in early days when I started my work as an artist, early 70s, so that time was very difficult, no recognition for the art. But when I came back from the Moscow, it's 90s, also a little bit with difficulties. But somehow with the 90s started the change of the art scene here, and more recognition to the visual art, more galleries, and then people are trying to buy artworks and new architectures, new city lights, more middle class. So then So art, to do art, beautiful art, you can survive easily.
Yeah.
But if you are doing anyways, become an artist, you have to take risk. Any job, you have to take that risk. If you can face that risk, yes, you have to sacrifice, you have to dedicate, you have to all the time think as an artist. So then not think about the money. So if you are thinking about the money, so you will be the entrepreneur.
Correct.
So, but artists will face a lot of issues. It's a part and parcel of, suffering and, enjoyment, and, you will gain because you have some kind of idea, you have to convey this message to the people. Might be when you are doing that work, it's not that much beautiful as a lot of people think.
But it
not
has,
colorful. It cannot be put on the wall, and some people cannot live with those kind of art. But those kind of art what I am making, I think I have to tell that story. Anyway, people like it or not, they have to deal with it. So then some art for the living spaces, but some art for the thinking and get museum spaces you later visit, and it is a part of we are putting the contemporariness this time we are freezing in that artwork. That is why you can read the time what happened at the particular moment.
Correct.
So it's only through art.
It's almost like a code or a special language.
Yes.
And if people are not open to it or don't have their eyes open to it, they may miss the message. But at the same time, you can hide a message also from people in it.
There are direct, indirect, and various ways of saying things.
So speaking of your art, what I know is that your art is inherently very political. Was it always like that, or did you end up being that way?
I think because I always loved to do human figures. When 70s, there was a boom for abstract art in Sri Lanka. I was marginalized because I loved human figure. It's like because human figures most affiliated with the socialist realism, those kind of things. Abstract art for freedom of thinking, free spirit, new world, American dreams. There are a lot of connotation with that. So, but I anyway love to work with the human figure. So I was a figurative artist. At that time, might be the figurative artists are bad artists. The good artists are only the abstract artists. Yes. And anyway, I took that path. That is why I went to Russia also to further study the figurative art language and to be trained at. And in that way, I might be the bad artist. Bad artist in that sense, I'm not making things for the just pleasure, to decorate your eyes. And I know how to decorate. I to give some, colors and got the kind of temporary pleasure you can make with colors. But I want to do more than that.
And create
sometimes I make beautiful think about a lot of might be the very painful histories.
So you want your art to have an impact and to have a real message.
That is the thing, with when you are working with the human figure, you see more related issues with the human history, present moment, and what kind of things can be happen in future if we are passing this time this way.
Professor, once when we were having a discussion, you said you can't separate politics from art.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Might be everything I do is a political things, even in my university days also they thought I'm a very thinking about society and, at that time it's be labeled as a leftist, also progressive, and others are the, anti people, the bureaucrat, the kind of bourgeois art. But I was belong to the people's side, but anyway, the socialist thinking communism or for good for good for everybody all the time.
And those are the ideas that were very strong at that time, right? Anyway, and also I think when you're young, youth anyway are attracted to things like that. So maybe it was just a passage of time. But right through, even now, you are known for creating political pieces or getting involved politically also with things that have nothing to do with art. So where do you get your activism from?
Yeah, I think might be this kind of. My father lost his job because of his activism.
Okay.
So if you are not following the path of the father, so you can label as a different person.
Yeah.
So I think that is in our blood and our surrounding. You know, in our house we have a lot of books on socialism, Soviet Union, and various those good stories about those things.
And you have a personal link also.
Personal links, and anyway, through that. Anyway, even he lost his job. He stand for the ideals, but only later he changed due to things. And but somehow I carry that torch forward, and but. Because of that suffering from childhood, because we had a good life first, because of that punishment of political punishment under the Idiagola period, he lost his job and we came we lost our houses, no place to live, and how the poor people are living, I know perfectly.
What did your father do before then?
As a teacher, principal.
And
he lost whole job.
For standing up for...
Yeah, we had our, government quarters, and then...
This was in whose time? Like, who was the president at that
time? It's the UNP government period, the Idiagola.
Idiagola, right.
Yeah, 1965 to 75 years.
So you really understand the impact.
His job. I lost mother also at that time. 1967 when I was 7 years.
Right.
It's early childhood. We, same time. Later somehow with the education. That is why education is very important.
Correct.
It's not the certificate kind of education. You have to get your education to reach your goals. Yes, I think because of that education, now we are recovering from that.
This would have been that brief Dudley period between Sirimavo.
It is kind of just before the Sirimavo period.
Correct. Wow. So this actually. So anyway, for an artist, you need these deep experiences, right? Because that's what helps you. You draw back on these things, and that really informs your way. And I like what you said about you understand really what people go through, and that's very important. And that also helps you to stand up for, when you go out there and you file petitions and stand up for what you believe is right.
To ask questions.
Correct. And we discussed this before also. When you go out and do this, do you often feel like it's just you or just you and a few other people? Because most people don't do this. Yeah,
so might be my nature, might be I don't feel, I don't afraid to anything. If I decided to support something, I support till my, I don't care about my life and things. That's the kind of, you are idealistic also, because I think that kind of idealism is good to become, yes.
I've been trying to, I've spent a lot of my last few years steering away from that kind of idealism, but
because sometimes you have to say yes or no.
Yeah.
You can't say yes and no together, because when you are asking a question, especially, it is very important for the future of the country.
Correct.
And you have to clear those kind of those questions, especially if you are giving powers to the person. You have to clear them and ask question.
Very true.
Unfortunately, the system was corrupted. But my question is, I think our question is very valid. And someday it will prove again, because history will come again. That's we have to reread the current moment in future.
And when you look back, you have to see how did I stand. at that point.
We have to stand, because when you are, the activism is, it's not a kind of, it's not a job. It's you have to
your own
be
personal,
and you have a nature, you fight for the people's right and human rights, and because I believe the human rights are very important things, your educational rights, cultural rights. Someone has to fight for it, because all the time, any government, it's so-called lefties or so-called righties, they are trying to repress the people and to continue their powers in, something they are saying before the election, but after that, whole history of Sri Lanka, we are facing that kind of promises and broken promises, and repressive various acts are passing in the parliament with the majority. So we have to question again what is the majority is.
Yeah. So does it ever bother you, Professor, that people don't seem to care, that there's quite a lot of apathy, that people don't ask the questions, or even if they ask, they don't make their questions public?
I think it's an issue start with our education system.
Right.
Because we are trying to give them the education to pass the exams. Memorize. It's not education. That is why always I say that if you study, self-studies are the most important thing. Then you study things because you want to study, not someone wants to study. Because in our system, they are like, for example, when the child grown up to the year 5, we are putting them to the school. That's very joyous child. Coming after very first day of the school, very fed up and squarish shape.
Yeah, true.
So that is what they are very tired after the education. We have to enjoy the school life also. But somehow in the 70s, little bit remaining at that time, because there were teachers who are encouraging your, rather other than your curricular work, extracurricular works, art, politics, and we had discussion with some young teachers about the politics also.
There's no tuition at that time.
Now it's no tuition at all, yes.
And no competition, I guess. Things have changed quite a bit. So when you look at Sri Lanka today, besides education, and you've also highlighted corruption in administration, what other things, like culturally, what do you think people need to do better, or do you think people need to treat each other better in a way? What do you think is lacking or missing?
Culture also, because kind of thing, part of the education also, because there are formal education, informal, we are getting from the school and your family and, your society. So what the society teach you? And that's also questionable things are coming with that. Even the religious organization, institutes are teaching not the original, the Buddha or Jesus Christ told to people at that time. Now they are talking to only the power, who has power. They are trying to please them and then fool the other people to, suffering has to be continued just. And I think that is the part we have to change. Not only the culture means everything, so how do you behave and how do you educate, how to go to your religious things or what you believe, and everything is there. So that is, that formation of new person has to be through free education, and we have to separate some subjects from school curricula also. Religion has to be taught at the temples, and that practice schools, has to be there. So when we are mixing it as subject, you are only one subject you are learning, not comparative. There is no comparative studies about other religions also. That is why the Islamophobia is activated through that unknown area of your knowledge. They think it's the enemy. and you are not knowing about the Tamil culture, you know, even you are taking Hindu deities to your religion, but they are not thinking about their Tamil culture about things. So that is the culture is not only the beliefs and art practices also.
Yeah, so this is what you were saying. You were also saying about education. So basically, even in schools, if you are not educated about these things, self-education. So you should be reading up about other religions, you should be reading up about other cultural practices so that you are able that, what you said I liked about unknown areas of knowledge. And that's where I think fear or phobias either come from there or maintained or manipulated there. So those are very interesting concepts that you brought up. And does it also annoy you that everything is political today in Sri Lanka? Not a whole world, not only Sri Lanka. But yes, without politics you can't think. You are not belongs to any politics. If you are saying it's also the part of politics. Correct. Your politics is not being involved in politics, right? And that is why it's a very important if you are not a party politics, if you don't like the party politics, there are ideals in the society, you know, equality and, you know, treat well to other people, respect to other people, and recognize all the professions. And there is no hierarchies in this society, all are equal. You know, those kind of good ideals you have to practice in your life. Correct, you don't need a religion. You don't, If you want a religion, yes, it is your personal thing. Correct. It is your very personal thing. And what are the subjects you pass, what religion you belongs to, and those are very personal. And because it is, that has to be changed, you know, otherwise still we are trapped in the same. So do you have any hope for the future? We were talking about the younger generations and how it's very different for them and they think differently. You have been able to identify some of the issues and you have also been able to identify the solutions. Do you think that the future generations with time will let go of these concepts, maybe more secular education, more free alternative education? Do you think that'll happen, or do you think the majority, like you said, the majority will? Yeah, because all generation might be dying. And the new generation will take the future. Anyway, it is the history and future all the time it's happening. So always we have to accept, you know, the kind of next generation, anyway they will pick up. And not to disturb generations. That's the main thing of our responsibility, to understand what they want and what they think. You know, sometimes if we believe some wrong ideals and wrong things about the culture, you know, various kind of, you know, being obeyed to some other, you know, for example, venerating all the politicians, it's a bad culture. So you have to work teach that. And so those elements, if you can remove from the new generations, then they will take the future to the best place, good place. And just to circle back to your exhibition, this sort of July, the commemorating July 23rd, the exhibition, is that the the Black July exhibition, is that the only exhibition you do yearly, or do you have other exhibitions throughout? No, I'll do annual. It's a kind of my ritual, you know, it's like every July I have to do it, you know, so. And then all the time I make new works to the new collection, so that particular moment. Because I cannot show the old works all the time. You know? So and how long does it generally take you, Professor, to prepare for like say for July, Black July? How long does it take? A whole year? It's like a 1 year research. That's what I was thinking. It's a research. You know, you have to wait some moment. You have to do your literary surveys, like I do my political surveys. You know, what the politicians are doing, what's happening in the country, and how people behave, and you know, we are thinking about it. And then you have some art references also, what happened in the histories also. That's thinking part take a longer period. An observation, some sketching, some it might be the after end of the
opening of my July show, I start next show.
The next one, wow.
Now already I'm thinking about next show.
Right.
But it might be changed in middle of the year. See, somewhere around New Year at the turning point. That's that point I start the implementation of the work.
Right.
Either 2-dimensional or either 3-dimensional.
Right.
So that is my research part.
Yeah.
Is the first half of the
Since
year.
July, yeah.
The second half is the
when you start
actually
putting it in place.
Yeah, around 5 to 6 months I have to dedicate to only to implement that one. Sometimes the last minute also artworks change. It depends on the political situation, so that you have to be responsive. That's why I become a contemporary artist also. I'm a temporary artist maybe because I'm responding to the tempo of this moment.
Right.
So for example, 20th amendments happened. So then you have to respond to it.
Correct. Yeah.
So then that's the way I translate some contemporary issues to my exhibition. So at the same time, you have a kind of issues related to the war and post-war, and sometimes some are pre-wars also, because all are connected to the one line, because of the human rights issues, and still disappearance has no answers. When that society has to be a better place when the no disappeared person in that society.
Right.
Until the last disappeared person identified, our society will suffer, because that soul is seeking the place to rest.
Right.
So we have to know he's dead or
not.
accidentally dead or killed or whatever happened. We have to know the truth.
Yeah.
That truth, innocent truth, we have to
Find out.
understand. And at that moment, only that society will heal. So you don't have any regrets, because you accept that, it happened, so you can't change the past.
Right.
But you have to fight for not to happen it again.
Yeah.
So my contribution might be that kind of thing.
That way.
Yeah.
It sounds incredibly interesting, and especially the process that you described. And the exhibition is now on at the Saskia Fernando Gallery.
Yes, it will be till 20th.
Till the 20th. So I really hope anyone who hasn't caught it will go there and catch it. And I have been meaning to go, but I've been a little busy. But I promise I will go.
Except Sundays.
Except on Sundays, yes. So it will be on except on Sundays, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. And I hope everyone else drops by as well. Thank you so much, Professor Thenuwara, for coming. I really enjoyed having a chat with you.
Thank you very much inviting me again.
You're welcome, and I hope we'll have you soon again.
Yes, yeah, anytime. Call me.